Hey everyone, this is Steve Corian from the PTC community, and today I'm going to show you how to use KeyShot 3. It's a program I use to render my objects. You can render your objects in Pro E. Here's an example of a BBS rim that's kind of rendered in Pro E. If I go to Open, I can change my materials. Then when I go back to, there is some kind of rendering, but this isn't the exact quality or type of rendering that I want. I want a higher res quality. So what I do is, with KeyShot, there is it can apply real-time lighting and real-time materials, and you can make it look a lot better than what CAD can make it look like. Now with KeyShot, it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward for the most part. If you're new to KeyShot, we're going to do an assembly today, but in the next tutorial, when I go into the advanced stuff, I'll show you how to render individual parts with different colors, which is actually probably the most common question. But we're going to go to File, Open, and we're going to open my assembly. When you go to open your assembly, there's center, snap to ground, so I'm going to snap it to ground. Advanced, there's a tessellation quality, which is just the line quality that you're importing. So I'm going to hit OK, and it's actually opening the native Pro E file. Like, you can use a step or an IGES or whatever, but that's the advantage to using Pro E with this, is I can actually open my files, save them, make changes, and then reopen the assembly in here. So I've imported my rim, and panning and moving around essentially works just like CAD. If you hold left click, it'll rotate around. If you hold middle click, it'll pan. If you scroll with your scroll button, it'll scroll in and out. So this is basically the default scene when you get into KeyShot, which is fine. You can change it by right clicking on your part, hitting Edit Material. Up at the top here, this menu will pop up, and you will see Environment. And I always like to change my lighting. You can drag this little dot. You can see how the lighting's moving around. You can do color, which I tend to do solid colors, darker colors than what I'm actually going to make my part. You can use a backplate image in like an HDRI. You can do ground reflections. So now you can see I turned it on. You can see there's a ground reflection on my part. I haven't even put a material on it. It's just reflecting what it sees. You can adjust your ground size depending how big or small your part is in relation to the scene. Okay, so that's kind of a lot of information to take sorry, in at once. But so what we're going to do is I'm going to rotate this part, and then I'm going to add some materials, and I'm going to show you how quick and easy this is. If I right click on the part and I go to Move Object, you can move it around by just dragging on these little arrows right here in the middle, or you can actually come down here to this menu, and then I'm going to click Rotate, and I'm just going to click and drag about where I want it. So we'll say right there, and I'm going to hit Done. I'm going to close this little project box because I don't need it open anymore. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to apply your materials, and you're probably saying, wow, you have all these little screws and it's going to take forever. Well, the thing that's good about KeyShot is that it actually recognizes the same part. So if I go to Library, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. When you open up your library, it brings up all the materials that you can apply to your part. So let's say on the main part of the rim, I wanted to do, I'm going to use like a plastic color. It's not real, but it's shinier. So say I wanted to, what you do is you click on, you can expand this, there's different selections, gloss, matte, and it brings up, you know, the materials down in here. Now if you left click and hold, you just drag it onto the part you want to add that material to and let go, and it just adds it. Now let's say we wanted those screws to be black. You just click and drag it on there, and you can see, if I zoom in, that it changed all of them. So I can change them to white. I can change this whole thing to black if I want. And I'll zoom out. I'm just left clicking and dragging the materials onto. See, if you hold it, I haven't let go of my left click yet. If I'm just holding it and dragging it around, and it's highlighting parts that I can add that material to. That's what it's doing right now. Well, I'm going to put it on this S. And the only thing I'm going to do is change my lighting a little bit. So I'm going to go to Edit Material by right clicking on my part. Go to Environment. I'm going to change the direction of my light. And so say I wanted to do this for a first render. Down here on the bottom right, there is the render button. If you click that, a menu will come up, and you have quality, you have you know, a queue where you can add multiple render jobs at once. You know, you can really up the quality on your render. When, you know, in here I don't really mess with too many of these settings, because if I just stick to output, and I'm going to change my location here by clicking that little folder to my desktop, and in resolution what I'll do is I'll set it at 2500, and if you just click in the next box, it automatically adds the size it should be. There's presets. You can do presets if you want to. You can adjust, you can tell it how much DPI you want. You can have it render in the background so you can do something else. There's different formats that you can render in, and the one thing I want to tell you about is if you're not using an HDRI for a background, like an image, like a picture, you're just using the background that I'm using, which is just the standard background. If you do a TIFF, you can actually save this without, it'll be your part rendered, but there will be no background behind it. So then you can take it and essentially take this high res image and put it into any picture you want, and you don't have to worry about cutting it and, you know, cutting it out of this. I can show that to you. It's pretty simple. So anyways, we're going to render this. So you get a render window that comes up. Now, depending on your PC and the materials and the quality, you know, you see the little square boxes. It renders by pixels. So this is a preview window of what you're going to get. When it's done, you'll see it says 100% right here at the top. I'm going to hit close. I'm going to hit close again. Now I'm going to minimize this so you guys can see what this picture looks like. So as you can see, this is what the final render looks like, which is a lot better than this. If I take this and rotate this around, this is what it looks like in CAD. Okay, and this is what it looks like now, which to me is way more presentable to a customer, or just if you're doing things on your own and you want to visually see what it could possibly look like. I think this is a great way to do it. It's really fast. It's really easy. KeyShot has done an amazing job streamlining, the program and how long it takes to do certain things, and it's nothing. I think it's way better than Hypershot in my opinion. They made both, so I think this program is a lot better. So let's open Render again, and if you go to, we're going to change this drop down to TIFF, and when I go to hit Render, I believe this is how you do it. Right next to when you select TIFF, there is an Include Alpha transparency mode. So if that's selected when you hit Render, what you end up getting is it going to open? Oh, it's opening in Photoshop. I was wondering why it was taking so long. So okay, so this is what I was saying before, is now I have this render right here that I just did, and it has no background. The background that you see in KeyShot is just there, for reflection. That's it. So you can export it out already cut out of this environment, fully rendered, and then you can bring it into a program like Photoshop just like this, and you can, here I'll show you something really cool. We'll do this. We'll go to Open. Find a wallpaper real quick. I have too much stuff. Alright, we're going to just grab one here. So you could take this Camaro and say you wanted to put, now I'm not going to do the Photoshop tutorial, okay, but I'm going to show you what you could do, because this is a whole nother tutorial. So I opened up this Camaro. This is the picture I made from KeyShot. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it in here. Right now I'm just scaling it. So the possibilities of this are kind of endless. Now what I would do is, when you're bringing this in or exporting it out, I would get rid of your drop shadows and stuff like that, because you can see it leaves like a film around it from the lighting. So you can get rid of your drop shadows, because you really just need the lighting on the render and the colors. But what you could end up doing is you could position your render so that it looks just like the position of this rim. Render it, bring it in, and essentially just erase this middle section here. I'm just doing a shitty job so you can see. I'm going to move the rim behind the locked layer. Stop. And then you would just erase away obviously this is a bad job, but you would erase away what, so that the rim would just be there. That's what, I mean, you can do stuff like that, or you can just render it to have it, Obviously, the Photoshop thing, it takes hours for me to do a perfect cut-in like that, but you can render them to make them look like this, and that's the point. But those are some of the possibilities of KeyShot if you have other software to go along with this. So, but if you just want to make really nice pictures, you can do this. I'm going to go to library here. I'm going to change to metals. I'm going to go to, say, chrome. And I'm going to put chrome on the screws and chrome on the center cap. I'm going to probably rotate this. Change my lighting by right-clicking on the edit material, environment. And depending what kind of shot you want, I mean, you can set up your scene however you want it to look when you render it, just set it up that way, like you were taking a picture. So if you hit render, and I'm gonna change it back to JPEG. Now these materials obviously don't take very long. They're not super complicated materials. They're pretty easy. The file size on my part is actually pretty small, so this isn't something that's very taxing on my PC personally. Alright, we're going to close that because it's done. We're going to open that picture so you can see what it looks like. And there you go. I mean, look at your fasteners. They look pretty real. I mean, now this is where you have to kind of play with, with KeyShot a little bit. Because, that chrome looks good on the screws, but it doesn't look good on the center cap. So sometimes it might take you a couple renders, but the cool thing is it's not very time consuming to change materials, to render the part. So it's pretty awesome. All right, let's go to, is it under plastic? So I'm just left clicking the material here and dragging it onto the part itself, and then just letting go. And I'm just being silly with different materials right now, I'm just left clicking and dragging and letting go onto that material. And I'm just playing with different colors, different materials. You can change your brightness if you right click and go to edit material, and you can change your refraction and your roughness and add texture to this, labels. There's so much that you can do. Like right here, I can do contrast, brightness, so if I wanted it a brighter environment, you can actually see it getting brighter by dragging this. You can add contrast. There's so much that you can do with the program. It's so in depth. So I'm going to be doing a lot of tutorials on how to use different aspects and functions of it. This was just to kind of introduce you to how to throw materials onto the part, how to render it, and what it looks like, and what we're talking about when we're talking about high resolution, high def type images from making 3D models. So I'm going to render this real quick as our last render. And this probably won't take very long. This one is kind of taking a second. Now KeyShot will eat up a lot of your RAM, if you're still here listening. KeyShot will eat up your RAM and your video card memory like crazy. I have a 6-core processor, 3.2 gigahertz with 24 gig of RAM, and I have a pretty kick-ass graphics card, and it makes it run hot sometimes depending on the materials I'm adding and stuff, but it still seems to handle it okay. So if you have a lesser grade computer, it could potentially overheat your graphics card because it does run hot. So I wouldn't suggest rendering all night long, like for 8 hours, unless you had a really, really good computer. But if you're going to render a couple images a day, it's perfect, in my opinion. Maybe 20. There's days where I'll do 20, 15, something like that, and it's no problem at all. Now, like I said, sometimes the materials will make the render take longer, because it takes longer to get all the reflections for that material rendered, all the detail. So that's why the rendering will take longer on some of your renders. And then there's some assemblies that just have so much detail from all the reflections of the materials that you're putting on there that it takes forever for it to render it. KeyShot does a lot better job as far as speed goes on rendering large assemblies. I'd say the longest it's taken was maybe 10 minutes for me. This has been like a minute or two so far. It'll probably take 4 minutes, maybe less, I don't know, to do this total render. But that's why render in the background is pretty cool, because you can render this in the background and then go back to making changes if you want to get more renders out. That's something I don't use because I feel like I want all of my computer power to go towards the render and not towards me changing the part and trying to render at the same time. Like, I just kind of want to render it, get it done, and then move on and do it again, That's just my personal preference. So it's almost done. Getting to 70%. So if you're using programs, I might as well go over this too. If you're using programs like ProE, SolidWorks, Unigraphics, it will open those part files natively. It means you just can hit open on the assembly or the part and it will bring it in. Something in the next episode that I'm going to show you, so a quick preview. When you want to add multiple colors to one part, you have to change the color of the surface in CAD and then open it up in KeyShot, and KeyShot will recognize it as two different surfaces, so you can add two materials to that one part. See, in an assembly it's different because each part can have its own material. But if you're just working on one part and you want, like, say, a machined edge to look different than the rest of the casting, then you would have to color it, and I'll go over that in an advanced tutorial. It's really easy to do, just sounds complicated. But for something simple like this rim or a screw or a plastic part that you want to get across, you can just bring it in, add a material, render it, and kick out renders left and right all day long. And that's, some weekends that's what I do. I'll just come up with ideas in my head, I'll model it, and I'll just make, I don't know, 30, 40 renders in a weekend. It just depends. You know, and I'll try different colors, different lighting, different backgrounds, just experimenting with, you know, reflections and things like that. Alright, so this is done. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close KeyShot. Oh, up here at the top, before we go, up here at the top you have File, you have New, you have Open, Open Recent, so you can see it can open recent files and it gives you a preview. You have Import, you have Save, Save As. Now what it's talking about is save, is you can save this part with the materials on it as you see it. So say you had to go somewhere and you didn't want to leave your computer on. You could save this as a KeyShot file and then open it later and continue working right where you left off. It's really convenient. I've used that multiple times, especially on bigger projects where you have a huge assembly and you've already put a ton of work into adding all the materials into all the parts. So it's really convenient. Under Edit, you can undo, you can change your scene, material, environment, camera settings. There's your preferences. You know, so you can set it so you have 100% quality when you're just looking at it. You can change your auto update so it's not as taxing on your computer. You can have transparent windows. You can set generic, specify your folders, locations and stuff, which I should do that now. I should put that to my desktop. It has plugins, which I don't have any plugins. And then it has advanced for your GP, for your computer and stuff. Clear geometry will actually get rid of the geometry on your screen. It means it's gone now. You can't undo that. Render, you can just make a screenshot of what you're seeing, which is kind of like a pre-render. You can pause your real-time render. You have performance mode, which helps like speed up the whole program. You have, you know, under views, project library, log. You know, the log just shows any problems it was having or things that you were doing. There's a heads-up display, full screen, presentation mode. There's the help. The help is really good. There's a quick, the hotkeys overview is really good. It just brings up this little window right here and it tells you immediately like what you can do. So when you're new to KeyShot, this is essential. You have to have this because you're struggling trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I tilt this? How do I pivot? How do I zoom in? You might forget. I mean, you're new to it, I understand. And this will quickly show you, so you know, as a quick reference on how to, you know, move your parts around. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys learned something from this KeyShot tutorial. I'm going to make a couple more showing you how to make, you know, do some more advanced rendering. But this was just for basics, and this is what that part looks like rendered. By the way, this is at full screen. So, I mean, you can see all the detail, all the reflections from the materials. It's pretty solid. But if you have any questions or feedback, please leave them below, and I'll see what I can do to answer your questions. Thanks for watching.